Welcome to Lowcountry Snapshots. I'm your host, Judy Lampe. Today's program is going to feature interviews with many Sun City residents who were involved in the preparation of Earth Day. Earth Day has been celebrated worldwide for 49 years, and this was the first time Sun City got involved. My first guest is Paula Smith, and Paula has lived in Sun City for a number of years, and she describes herself as a lifelong environmentalist. So Paula, welcome to Snapshots.
Thank you so much for having me to your show.
You know, you've really been involved behind the scenes, so we wanted to have you talk about that. So maybe we could start with you talking about, how you actually got involved with Earth Day.
Well, I recently became the chairperson of the global climate change team that falls under the environmental group of the Democratic Club. The Democratic Club was sponsoring Earth Day this year, the first Earth Day here in Sun City, and I was invited to do a display and ended up pulling together a team that was a very, very active and very talented team of people. So we ended up with a great display.
Why was it important to have an Earth Day celebration in Sun City?
Okay, Judy, as you pointed out, this was the first time we've had a celebration of Earth Day here, and it's been 49 years. Interestingly enough, it was really our generation, a lot of the generation of people who live here in Sun City, who created Earth Day initially. There had been, back in 1970, there had been growing concerns about environmental issues, and through one of the senators in Congress, decided to try to harness some of that energy that he saw in the protesters against the Vietnam War and in civil rights walks and all of that sort of thing in defense of our environment. He wanted to show that our country could be prosperous and wealthy without damaging our environment. So that was really important. So the fact that we haven't had one is pretty surprising, but I think it's a good reminder for us here in Sun City. We get involved in our lives, everybody gets involved in their daily lives here, and you don't really thinking about your connections to the rest of the world. But it's a good reminder, I think Earth Day is a good reminder that we all have a basic connection to nature that is indispensable. We are part of the web, we are not outside of that web, and so we need to be supporting nature in order to keep ourselves healthy and to support our ongoing progeny to survive in the world to come.
What have you been doing to create an understanding of environmental issues in our community?
Well, several years ago, a friend of mine, Freddie Hoffman, and I got involved with doing a program for the Bird Club. And in that program, we were looking at trying to preserve our songbirds, which we've lost so many of since the 1960s. And what we decided is we would do an approach that starts in your own backyard. What can each individual do? And then goes on to what can our community do? And then what can the state do? What can the federal government do? So when we got to the community level, we realized that there was a program called Audubon International, which currently certifies two of our oldest golf courses here as wildlife sanctuaries. And we hadn't realized that they also had the ability to certify communities as being sustainable communities. So we pulled together a team of people and put together a proposal to our board of directors. And unfortunately it was turned down because the timing apparently was not really very good for them, because the anticipation then was that Pulte was going to be leaving the development within 2 years, and there was a lot of work to be done to prepare for that. But they did indicate that we could put that proposal back in at a future date when we thought the time was more appropriate. So we are still talking about that. So that sustainability issue was one, and once that got turned down, the opportunity got presented by Charlie Kent, who is the director of golf services, to develop the golf course nature tours. So we pulled another team together to put the golf course nature tours together, and that has become a very successful program. We've been running now for just over a year. We've had probably close to 500 Sun City residents participate in that program, and what we try to do there is create an awareness not only of the beauty of the golf courses and that amenity that they don't always have an opportunity to see, but to also create the awareness of how valuable nature is to us as a whole.
the Bird Club watched the documentary The Messenger, and it's about the disappearing songbirds, and we've lost more than 50% of the songbirds in the world. And as we watched it, it was very enlightening. And Paula Smith and I, after the documentary, felt kind of left and said, what are we going to do? So we started researching what all the different clubs and organizations at Sun City are doing to address the issues in the documentary. You know, and so from that, we started a group and started working with different groups to find out what more we each could do in our own yards, in our own neighborhoods, and at Sun City. Paula is also chair of the bird count. And when she was meeting with Charlie Kent about the bird count, and he mentioned nature tours and had we done something here on the courses, and she said, well, the staff of the golf did it once a year, but not really focused on nature. And he said, would you be interested in doing it? And she said, I've got a group of friends that have been working on things like this. I think we'd love to do it. So we got that group together again and formed our steering committee, involving all different groups, including avant-gardeners and the bird club and the hunting and fishing club and the golf advisory committee. And we started the steering committee with Charlie Kent and Rick Barnes, who's been fantastic, our director of golf course maintenance, and worked on the tours.
Thank you. And the female actually, this is one of the few types of birds that the female is prettier than the male. The male is pretty much black, but the female has a very pretty chestnut neck and has like a white checkerboard, black and white checkerboard on their back. They're very pretty. We may see one up close, which would be good. The cormorant has a shorter neck, and they sit more on top of the water rather than down in the water like the anhingas. The anhingas, they call it the snake bird because sometimes when they're in the water, all you can see is their curved neck sticking up. And the cormorant, if you have binoculars, you can see, look at their bill, they have a little hook on their bill, whereas the anhinga has a really straight pointed bill. Sometimes you see them like just sort of hunkered down on the edge of a lagoon. So they're sort of an interesting bird, and the way that they fish, they like to eat little snails and things. The great egret I just wanted to mention, because we do see those around here a lot, more so in the winter. We have them all year, but we see more of them in the winter. And this bird was hunted back in the early 1900s, was hunted almost to extinction because they have such beautiful feathers, especially during breeding season, which is now. So if we see any, you'll see they have these just beautiful feathers. And women liked them for their hats. So they were hunted almost to extinction because of that. and now I'm on the global climate change team. So we'll be doing some projects there, and our first project, other than our own backyard technique of doing education at Earth Day on different aspects of climate change and how individuals can not only help with climate change but also help lower their costs by things like LED lighting and solar panels and those types of things. So our next project really is looking at trying to make solar panels more accessible to Sun City residents.
Could you tell us more about the sustainability community? I mean, how do you really describe that?
Well, sustainability as a concept really means to be able to live your life to the fullest and by utilizing resources enough to preserve them for the next generation to also be able to live their lives to the fullest. For instance, we don't want to go and, on a worldwide basis, we don't want to go and use up all of our forests and have no forests or trees left for the next generation. And in a community like Sun City, we would be looking at things like helping to conserve on water, things like using native plants where you don't need as many pesticides, you don't need as much irrigation, things that would save the community money but also be able to keep the community looking beautiful as well.
What was your role in Earth Day?
Well, as I mentioned, I was the chairperson of the climate change team. And with that, again, I pulled together a team of people that put together I thought a very effective display for our Earth Day. I was also a member of another team, and that was the Nature Tours team. And that also, I think, went very well. We ended up offering grandchildren nature tours, and that was very successful. That went a couple of days after Earth Day. And we had, I think, 4 or 5 children in one and 4 or 5 children in the other with their associated grandparents and parents. So those were very successful.
What were the highlights of this year's Earth Day?
I think the biggest highlight for me was the opportunity for all of these different clubs and groups to come together and with a common goal, to be able to share what they're doing for the environment and how they're recognizing Earth Day. I also thought it was wonderful the variety of displays that people did. Some were very interactive and hands-on. The plastics group had people weaving mats out of old T-shirts. And all of the groups had very nice door prizes that they gave. The Bird Club gave a songbird box away. The Art Club gave away a number of different prints. The Photography Club gave away photographs of some of the endangered species that we're trying to protect. So really, I thought overall was extremely successful. And I have to give credit really to Nancy Stencil, who just pulled that whole thing together and organized all those groups.
This year is the 49th anniversary of Earth Day nationwide. And the first Earth Day in 1970 had over 2 million people gathered across the country, and it was the largest civil gathering in the United States, and it's also non-political and secular. So they're hoping next year on the 50th anniversary that they'll have 1.2 billion people across the world. So some of the other clubs that are participating are the Kayak Club, the Roadrunners Club, the Eat Smart Club, and Second Helpings Club. And the Democrats of Sun City will have a table for information about plastics disposal and global climate change. And then some of the other clubs will be featuring endangered species, since the theme of this year is Save Our Species. So the Garden Club, the Avant Gardeners, will be talking about attracting pollinators, and the Bird Club will be talking about how to attract birds and how to care for birds. So there's a lot of information about things like waste disposal and what we can do as individuals to help keep our country and our world a little bit cleaner and less polluted.
It's great. The Kayak Club is here, and I had no idea. They actually pick up trash in all the local streams and lakes and the ocean. So they've done a great job. Second Helpings is here talking about, if you will, feeding those who can't afford to eat. They do recycle all of our clubs. A lot of people here in Sun City work in these clubs, volunteers. We couldn't have had this event without all the hundreds of volunteers. The Bird Club back here behind us, all about art. The Avant Gardeners. I can't even tell you all the clubs that participate and the hundreds of people. It's been a great, it's far exceeded our expectations.
So tell us about the Bird Club and what they're actually showing us today.
They really talk about habitat. I mean, one of the special celebrations this year is talking about saving our species. If we save our species, we're also going to save us, and they're doing a great job in educating the public on that. And so the trash that the Kayak Club picks up helps protect our bird species and our aquatic species. And we have a lot of people from Buford Recycling and all of our sponsors who've helped make this happen. Food Line gave us 150 recyclable bags to reuse over there. We've had a lot of contributions from all walks of life here in and around Sun City.
And Nancy, what are you doing today as president of the Kayak Club to really show that you care about the world?
Well, I'll tell you what, the Kayak Club here in Sun City is an active conservation, and we do a lot of environmental things in the community. Here's an example today. This is one of our kayaks. We go up and down the rivers and collect trash. The county works with us in whatever landing or boat ramp we come into. We bring the trash and the county picks it up. We also do education with children on the rivers about the conservation of the waters, the marine life, etc. Today we're also promoting how to recycle some of these things, and we have brought some shirts that are made out of plastic bottles, and they're beautiful shirts. And we also have stress balls with the world in our hands and so on. But at the end of the day, the Kayak Club does a lot in the community and with the county and with children, and to keep our waters clean.
With Ilsa Moore and Ilsa, what are you doing with a cloth, remnants?
I am recycling old t-shirts and make them into dog toys, dog chews. You cut them into strips, you braid it, and done. And this is a market bag. You just cut it all out, cut down here, and then you tie it, and that's the bottom of the bag.
Okay, so you don't need to take plastic bags to the grocery store. You can take your own handmade recycled bag.
Yes.
That is wonderful. And there's one other item behind you, which is really great.
This is a mat for the homeless that's made out of plastic grocery bags, and it's crocheted.
With me is Ann Plant. And Ann, you have to tell us about this wonderful hat that you have on.
Last year in May, we had a hat show, and all of the membership made a hat. Interestingly enough, I won the prize. I thought that was pretty good. And here is the hat. It weighs a ton, if you're asking me. So I think I might slide it off while I talk about this morning. There we go.
And the reason you had on that hat is because it had a lot of things to do with planting.
Especially with the hummingbird garden.
Okay, so tell us what you and the hummingbird garden folks are doing to really improve our environment.
Right. What we are working on is supporting planting local plants that will attract hummingbirds and bees and other wildlife of that insect type to come to Sun City and get us more involved in natural plantings. Instead of doing more sculptured plants, we are looking to do more open planting. Everything that we have proposed within reason can be found on the free landscape design that was released by a combination of work by the Bird Club, Sun City Gardeners, and the other clubs here that are trying to do a better concept of plants. And so what we're doing is attracting bees. We've had our first monarchs at the butterfly garden. They have caterpillars. There are chrysalis And so far, we've seen 3 to 4 new butterflies. So life is good. Whoa, not so good when it's windy. But yes. So what we have here today is a list about how to plant in a way that you're discouraging Bambi from eating your plants, which can be an expensive problem. And we also have a flyer about the type of plants that are local to this area. And you can put those in your garden to attract pollinators. So we're hoping that people today, when they stop by, we have some reminders for the children. We have butterfly puzzles that they can color. We have had fans that are in the shape of butterflies. And we have stickers that are butterflies. The children seem to be enjoying it. So hopefully we've had a contribution today to Sun City Gardens.
I'm talking with Bob Coughlin. And Bob, this is a beautiful car, and we understand that it is a Tesla. So what made you decide to buy a Tesla?
I'm fascinated by technology, but the real reason is the fact that Tesla, the purpose of the company is to improve the environment, to help climate change. Using an electric car rather than a gas car makes a huge difference to the world.
And so did you think about this for a long time before you actually bought this car?
Actually, this is my third Tesla. I thought about the first one a long time. Took my wife out for a drive, and she was thrilled with the car, and so we got it. And it gets easier after that. This car charges every night in the garage. I have no gasoline in my car in the garage, and it's a safer place too, as well as no CO2 being emitted to the environment.
Well, all kinds of great reasons to buy a Tesla, as well as having just a lot of fun.
Yes, it's a really fun car to drive.
Tell us how motorcycles save the environment.
Well, it's not something that you would normally think would fit in, but when you look at a motorcycle, typically you get pretty good mileage on it. This one, it's a nice big Harley Davidson. I get 50 miles to the gallon when we go out riding. So, it's better than most of the cars that you have out there. Some of the other bikes that we have in the group get much better mileage than that. So when we go out riding, it's not that bad for you as far as the gas mileage that you get. And it's fun.
With the 50th anniversary of Earth Day coming up next year, what goals do you have for Sun City?
I would love to see the 50th anniversary of Earth Day be celebrated in a big way here in Sun City. One of the things that I would like to see is to have some of the other clubs who either were not able to get involved this year or chose not to get involved this year to all be involved. I think having seen how successful this one was, hopefully that will draw more people in. I'd also like to see perhaps some more organizations be present to give information on them. We have a lot of very active groups in the state, like the Coastal Conservation League, the Audubon, those types of groups that we would love to have to do displays there as well. So I think, and to make it really a whole community-wide event.
Is there anything else you would like to add about Earth Day?
Well, this is not specifically about Earth Day, but I would like to give a plug for the Christmas bird count. My husband and I have been involved for years with the Bird Club doing the Christmas bird count, and we have really opened that up to the community. It used to be just a bird club only activity, and now it's been open to the entire community, and we've really, I think, gotten a lot more people interested in birds. The Bird Club has probably doubled in size in the last several years, and I would like to think that that's part of the reason. But so I think Earth Day, I'm hoping, will do the same kind of thing, get more people involved and more people interested in environmental issues.
I want to thank you, Paula, very much for doing such an excellent job, not only in this interview, but all the things that you've done in Sun City to make us more like a sustainable community.
Well, thank you. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to share this information with everyone. So thank you for inviting me.